You're listening to the Career Plus Life Catch-Up, episode number 42. Welcome to the Career Plus Life Catch-Up, a show anchored in reality to help you create a balanced life where you enjoy both your work and your life, because you don't have to choose. I am your host, Cecile Ferry, a corporate executive turned coach and working mom. This is your place for insights, advice, and tools to optimize your career direction, balance, and confidence. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get into it. Hello, beautiful people. It's great to be back here with another podcast episode. You would have seen last week, I got a little busy, very happily busy with lots of client work at the moment, lots of sessions. It's very exciting to see women taking control of their career direction and to want to achieve and get better results for themselves. I've also been doing a lot of work in the last couple of weeks with women returning to work as part of a large corporate program. And that has been so interesting to coach those women, help them addressing all the challenges, all the doubts, some of the worries, or all those little things that are weighing on their mind. So I've been really enjoying all those client sessions and seeing how even just 1 hour could shift the dial in so many things for them, and just seeing those smiles on their faces. It's really the best part of my job. I'm glad to be able to be back this week to record this podcast, which came to me inspired by a conversation I was having with a friend this morning in the park. However, the actual content that I'm going to share today is not something that came to me this morning. It's virtually like a cornerstone of my business. These are reflections. This is a way of thinking, a way of perceiving the world, and especially the life of women that I have been developing for a long time, that I really believe in. And I'm going to attempt to share it with you within one podcast episode. So I'm seeing the same facts. I'm seeing the same behaviors, the same patterns, the same even archetype, if I can say that, about many women today. It's like really more than a trend. It's like a mold, if you like, that I find is relevant to pretty much all the women that I personally know in their mid to late 30s. So, okay, I'm going to be very generic here. This is a warning. And what I'm going to describe and talk about may not be exactly a reflection of your life. And that's okay. However, I think what I'm going to cover is going to resonate with most of you. And that's why I do this. So what is the aim of this conversation today? First, I want to paint a picture of what I see is the conditioning of the modern women, where it comes from, why we've come to this, and what is the result, the pros and the cons. And then I want to give you some tools for your own development to optimize your career plus life equation, which is the topic of this podcast. My hope is that you will feel understood, you will feel inspired and guided to make little changes to make your life easier, to make it more flowy and more enjoyable. Does it sound good? Let's get into it. First things first, let me start at the beginning with our upbringing. I'm going to use the word we or you throughout this conversation because I absolutely identify with this conditioning that I'm going to talk about. So I put myself in the same boat here, and I believe, as I said, that most of us will resonate with this. So our upbringing. Many of us have been raised by very hardworking parents. They had values anchored in education, in work, in earning a living, to own your home, in being respectful, having excellent manners, and basically staying off the troublesome path. And our parents modeled that themselves, and we took after them. They were often working a lot, especially our dads, and work for them was linked to money, which was then linked to comfort. And in terms of character, they taught us to get into action. We developed, thanks to them, a go-getter attitude. as success was positively praised and sometimes the currency of their love. We were taught to be enduring. We were taught to get back up and keep going after any tumbling down, like not wasting any time sitting around and whinging. Soft skills were not the focus. It was more about good studies, good jobs, and a good home. And all this leads to success. Our parents had it, and we most likely had it too. If I had to describe the kind of person this typical woman looks like now, thanks to this conditioning, I would use the following words: striving, resilient, hard worker, high achiever, gets lots done, very organized, confident, outgoing, proud of herself, driven, with some determination, maybe a little hard-headed, with a good dose of self-integrity, knows what's right from wrong. Often with multiple interests spanning different directions, an avid learner, and a generally very good nature, kind and generous. Did I just describe you? I probably did. I definitely described myself up until my late 30s and pretty much all of my friends that I know. And hopefully all of you listening to this podcast. We are this generation of late Gen X or early Gen Y who have received that education and those values from our parents. If you ask me, I would say honestly that we have become the best package around for any partner. But let me now put this into our modern context, because let's be real here, we don't live in the 70s anymore. Let me cover what we have to deal with nowadays that didn't exist back then. Firstly, fast technology allowing us to be always on, always connected, or always reachable, with new expectations to manage in terms of communication, which also extends to the environment our kids now grow up in, but also more exposure to other people, more comparison through social media, fear of missing out, or rapid social trends that can rock society really quickly, like Me Too or Black Lives Matters. The technology also redefined a lot of jobs and how we don't stay in the same career path or in the same company for years on end. Now there is more change, more volatility, more ambiguity, that VUCA environment. There is an explosion of information thanks to the internet, namely about psychology, parenting, health, hobbies, skills, news about the economy and the world, and so on. I could go on. But all of these that give us more opportunities, more temptation to consume information and to want to apply it and use it in our lives. We also have now the ability to travel wide and large, pandemic aside. Women are also getting more senior jobs and getting a seat at the table in organizations, thank goodness. And should I add on top current circumstances like adversities, terrorism, pandemic, right? So these days, life is a lot more complex, a lot more multidimensional than it was 40 years ago. And I'm not saying it was easier then. It was hard. And it still is hard, but it is a different composition of hardship. What has happened for us women in a nutshell is that A, we took on our father's jobs. We are now lawyers and designers and managers and have PhDs. We are engineers, sometimes business owners. The list goes on. We've got all those jobs now, and that's great. B, we also took on the conditioning of our mothers. We're looking after the home and having happy children. We like buying them clothes, we like cooking, we like having a clean home. So we took on all of those things from our moms too. And C, somehow we have to squeeze more tasks into the same amount of hours and be sort of an all-rounder because this has all happened organically. So we're doing A plus B. Hence why the having it all expression that was coined. And women got a little bit cornered there. I find that quite actually negative. Instead of addressing the real drivers behind this. It's not that overnight we just got greedy and we wanted to have everything. It is just the evolution of society that gave us a much bigger piece of the cake. Pretty much all of it. We didn't know this as we grew up and blossomed in our 20s and 30s because that's just how we were. We were driven, enthusiastic, wanting to do well, and we enjoyed it. We did thrive on that. We enjoyed building our lives with all those aspects in it, our jobs, our homes, our relationship. Then what? Enter our late 30s, and that's when I generally see women looking at their lives, looking at themselves, and asking themselves some questions. That is typically when I see them coming to me wanting to change careers. And we are often at that stage seeing the limits of that, all-encompassing model, of that huge size of the cake. Some of us come to this point earlier, but that is not the majority. Typically, things burst at the seams once we have young children. Because then it becomes too hard holding on to a successful career, being a devoted parent, having a balanced life with friends and family, having a nice home, and also having a positive, mutually loving relationship. The pandemic is like the final drop for any of us who wasn't previously already thinking about their life composition and their experience of life. So if you are here, you are so not alone. In fact, most women of your generation feel just like you. We just don't have a manual, and our parents can't comprehend it, and we are often too busy to even sit down thinking about it. We just at times just stare, gaze in the air, looking at someone or something in particular that makes us question if we're doing the right thing or what needs to change maybe for us in order to feel happier more often. So let me take you through what I see as the pros and the cons of all that modern women conditioning, because it's about 50-50. It's a mixed bag. Let me start with the pro side first. We usually have excellent standards. We strive for quality all the way into the details, and we have certain standards we will not forego. This makes us go the extra mile, work really hard, and never settle for mediocrity. This is a great skill in business, in managing a home, and in organizing our lives. Secondly, we have a lot of strength. A ton of it, actually. We don't give up at the early sign of difficulty because we want what we want quite bad. We have endured a lot, so we can do tough. And the more we handle, the tougher we get. Throw us a pandemic and we are still standing. What will defeat those women? Not much, apparently, on the outside. We're exhausted, we've worked all day. So what? We'll still bake those cupcakes for the kids and go to the gym at 6 a.m. Some of us are so strong, we deserve the warrior title. We conquer those battles, we win again and again. And we feel so good for it if we let ourselves relish in it for 5 minutes. We also usually experience a lot of success, not only professionally, but across most areas of our lives. I call that we being multi-successful with our family, our homes, our relationships, our health as well. Because we don't compromise, we get a pretty equal level of success across most areas. Even if we have high standards and even if we want more. If we look at our achievements on the whole, it's a pretty good score. We also have wealth. Just look at the statistics for wealth amongst women. The rise is staggering. We make a lot more money than our mothers, and this keeps on growing and growing. We are also very productive. In fact, I would love to prove that we are the most productive species on this planet at this very point in time. Our brains are able to retain so much mental information coming from all directions and still getting things done in a very efficient manner. We may forget a thing here or there, granted, but otherwise our success rate is pretty much 96%, right? And we have an amazing potential for growth. Still, we already have grown so much, but we are still there, ready for more. Throw us a challenge and we will rise to the occasion. We are not afraid to grow. In fact, we want it. We want better. We want bigger. We want the next step. We are eager and often self-motivated. In a way, we are unstoppable. Okay, so these were all the great things that come from this conditioning. Now stay with me as I cover the challenges that inevitably come along too. And these are the ones that I see in particular that I carry with you during coaching and that help you overcome. The first one is the lack of boundaries between work, home, the family life, and our personal time. The pandemic only exacerbated that with working from home and having kids at home. It's like it's 10 times magnified. But already before, we felt it with work emails outside of hours, or not being able to switch off in the evening, or giving up on our personal time for work or for the family. It's like there is not enough time in the day or night, and all those four lines are pushing simultaneously. So it's a constant dance, or jargon as they call it, and it's constantly moving across the four directions and rarely satisfying. And so far, the best remedy we have found is just to take leave from work. Secondly, linked to this boundary issue and also the rest going on in the environment, the next challenge is mental overload, leading to overwhelm and, when extreme, to burnout. If that interests you, go and check out my episodes number 29 and 30 if you'd like to learn more about burnout. That is the working bee challenge. Doing too much at the detriment of our self-care and therefore our well-being. And this can become a way of life, sadly, as it becomes the norm. We don't feel overloaded because it is our standard load. We roll from 1 week into the next, 1 month into the next, and the years go by pretty quickly at that pace. And this explains why some of us have trouble sleeping, because during the night is when things end up being processed for us, given we don't have any capacity during daytime. A third challenge I see is the lack of mindfulness, as our attention and energy is drawn to so many places now, due to the blur line of the work-home family, also the blurring of our roles of both the worker and the parent, and the general overload. So we are busy thinking about our mental load, thinking about what we have to do, or remember that we don't have capacity for a spare window of blank thinking. To put it simply, we are in our heads 99% of the time. Next up in the challenges, we suffer from unworthiness when we are not getting the external results we want. So much value has been attached by our conditioning on our achievements, our tangible results of success, like a job, a salary, a home, all those very visible things we strive for, that when we feel we're coming short, we feel bad, we feel like a failure. And we can go down the spiral of self-doubt, self-criticism, and we simply from there can't feel good about ourselves. We focus on what we don't have and we cannot relax. That is the downside of all the striving. We forget that we are valuable just as we are, without that job title, without that achievement or that money. Some of us are forever searching for more meaning, for the day when we'll be happy, because we look at external things to give us that satisfaction and sense of self-worth. The next challenge, which is a big one and less known, is we have a lack of awareness about our emotions and how to manage them. EQ is now being more rated in the workplace. Conscious parenting raises awareness on the impact of our emotional health on our children. The pandemic only highlighted this even more. The thing is, we were raised to cope. We always coped. We never let anything make us feel low or dull for a while. Remember the warrior? We didn't have time to sit with emotions. That wasn't even a thing taught at home or at school. So as adults, we handle a busy, complex life, and we typically don't have time to feel. We stay in our heads, keeping everything afloat, and at times, to our surprise, some of those emotions come up to the surface and manifest as physical conditions, aches, illnesses. Because we have often learned to repress those emotions, that we just couldn't tell what we are actually feeling on a daily basis. Feeling? What for? No time for that. I've got things to get done. And this also means we find ourselves saying or doing things that we don't sometimes understand or control, like being short with our partner or kids, being in a bad mood or irritable. And we try to analyze this with our heads, and no wonder it's not getting us the right answers. So this all comes down to us not having the intelligence of our emotions because it was never taught to us. And this also means that we struggle to connect with our young kids emotionally. We don't know what's going on at times with them. We don't understand them. And we get upset or fed up because they behave a certain way. And finally, the other challenge that I see from all that conditioning is that we tend to be disconnected from our parents in the struggles that we face. They just can't relate. They don't get it, even if they really genuinely try. And for ourselves, we don't have any role models to turn to. We are all in the same boat. And sometimes, even this can become a collective place of sharing our frustrations and keeping us in the same spot rather than creating solutions. I see so many Facebook groups for women to support each other, but they tend to turn into places of commiseration, where it's about sharing and empathizing about the issues we all face, but not really focusing on how to move forward, how to find those solutions. So we just stay in them and we find solace in knowing that it's not just us and that we are playing normal. Is this enough? I don't think so. So now that I have covered a lot about that modern women programming, where it comes from and how it manifests, both positively and not so positively, I want to leave you with some tools, some strategies, if you identify with what I said previously. My best recommendation is to invest in career or life coaching to really get under the skin of that conditioning and help you shift your mind, rewire in a fast, effective manner. But you can also do it on your own by simply asking yourself some questions or making small but important changes to the way you run your life. Remember, you are in control and you can change anytime. The way you have run your life in the past does not have to define how you run it today or tomorrow. You can change anytime. These tools are things that I use and refine myself as I also navigate this complex journey in the current times. I am with you all on this boat, maybe a little bit ahead with all the reading and the learning and the self-coaching that I do for myself. I also believe that awareness is the main weapon here. Once you see why you do what you do or what thinking isn't serving you with what you have to deal with, I think this sets up a mini chain reaction in you. You will start thinking and uncovering different ways of thinking, and you can evolve by yourself. But let me give you some pointers today. Number 1, if you do just one thing, it is to focus on emotional management. This is what we all crucially need more of. It sounds simple, but it's not, especially when we have a history of not being trained in that area. I can recommend the book Running on Empty by John Webb. I will link it in the show notes to shed some light on what to do here. But simply start with integrating your feelings every day. Start tuning in and labeling them. The main point is to leave our heads during the day and connect with our heart. And this is a practice that will get easier and easier as you go. But at the beginning, it's going to feel super hard and like you are just getting nowhere. But keep at it. You cannot change 30 plus years of very limited emotional awareness overnight. So give yourself some grace. So number one is to feel, and feel. And ask yourself, how am I feeling? Don't get into the why or what you need to fix it. Just get to know your different feelings and get to know your own internal weather, basically. Number two is to slow down. Chances are this feels bad to you or it might bring up some guilt. But it's really important for that reconditioning that you start doing less. You start slowing down in order to be more present and to mind your own well-being. It's about rebalancing the head and the heart, stopping the racing around and being comfortable with pausing and just being as opposed to doing. Meditation is a very effective way to make you slow down for a short amount of time and to bring you into the present. But you can also simply sit down with a cup of tea, no phone, or you can walk in nature without doing any other task. Number three is noticing your patterns, the things you tend to do or say automatically, and to question them. Ask yourself, do I still want to do this or to say this? Is this how I want to run my life? And typically choose something different if it's not. You are your own self-healer. You totally can do this. You catch yourself in the action, you rethink, and try something that may feel totally different. You behave in the opposite way of what you naturally would do. For myself, for example, I see myself getting caught at times in running the house perfectly right, wanting to control things and my daughter, and things had to be this way, this way, this way. So I pause right there and I ask myself, is this necessary? And how could I enjoy this moment better? And this makes me at times say or do something completely random or ridiculously funny, which just relaxes the atmosphere and just brings more happiness to everybody. So you don't need a whole life change. Just those little subtle changes like this daily, where you stop and you relearn a way that works for you. Tool number 4 is getting help at home and or at work. As I said, we cannot possibly squeeze everything we are trying to squeeze into 24 hours. So we're living different times, they call for different solutions. Please consider outsourcing help as perfectly normal because it will become more and more normal. So get a cleaner, order your shopping online, delegate, buy things rather than make them. Basically, stop doing it all yourself. Tool number 5, let things be imperfect. Don't sweat it. Stop the rigidity around your standards. This is a big one for me. So you can explore another way of living. Give yourself a break too, because perfectionism can take you on an endless, exhausting road. If it's good enough, it's perfectly good enough. Number 6 is to work on worthiness now. It is about understanding that you are worthy irrespective of what you achieve or do. It's about being and feeling enough just as you are. In other words, it's time to chill out and to relax. You are doing well now and you can just enjoy that. Check out episode 11 if you want to know more. Tool number 7, focus on what you are already achieving every day. And give yourself a high five in the mirror every single day. This is the new book by Mel Robbins, if you haven't heard, where she talks about this technique of giving this acknowledgement to yourself every single day. Try it, as it is a lot of fun and it really works in making you see that all is well and you're doing well. You're an awesome human being doing great things. So high five to you, my friend. I could go on and on because this topic absolutely fascinates me, but I'm going to leave you here today to reflect on what resonated with you. Where can you identify with this conditioning of the modern women? And how much does it explain the challenges you are currently facing? I hope you won't beat yourself up because you are that way. Please don't. You didn't know as you grew up into this amazing woman that you are today. And your parents did the best they knew too, from what they learned themselves. It's not their fault that we live in a vastly different time. So let me leave you with the 3 key takeaways from this episode. Number 1, many of us have been conditioned through our upbringing to strive and develop into smart, educated, and high-achieving women, which serves us very well in building success across most areas of our lives. It's important to see all the positives that we got out of it. Takeaway number 2. The current environment and technology have made this model burst at the seams and bring with it a lot of challenges we are not easily prepared to deal with. The mental overload, linking external success to worthiness, and our lack of connection with our emotions make it hard for us to live balanced, confident, and happy lives. Takeaway number 3. We can work on retaining the best parts of our conditioning and on reprogramming the others, mainly by relearning to manage our emotions, letting things being imperfect, and slowing down. I hope you found this episode inspiring and that it helps you making sense of what you see and think about yourself at times. You are not alone. If you wish to dig into this further for yourself, you can check out my website for life coaching or career coaching at www.careercatchup.com. If you like this episode, feel free to leave a review on iTunes and to share this podcast with some special women in your life. Thank you so much for being here. I wish you a beautiful rest of the week and I'll chat to you soon. Take care, my friends. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to find out more information, you can visit my website at careercatchup.com. There you will find blog articles, free resources, a self-study course for your career direction, and ways to work with me. It's at careercatchup.com. I hope to continue to connect with you and support you. Talk to you soon.